Hi, I'm Matt Strasberg from the Vermont Agricultural Mediation Program. Today, you'll hear from agricultural mediators from across the country about the history of the USDA State Certified Agricultural Mediation Program, background information about mediation, how different ag mediation programs work in different states, the kind of issues we can work on, and what we're hoping to see in the 2023 Farm Bill. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mike Mayberry from Oklahoma.
Thank you, Matt. There are currently 43 certified mediation programs in the country. Certified means that there's only one USDA recognized program in any state, and within that state, that AMP serves the producers, the farmers and the ranchers operating within that state. The origins of the AMPs track back to the 80s and the events that became eventually known as the farm crisis of the late 80s. Farmers and ranchers across America were faced with very high and rising interest rates and were in danger of losing their family farms and ranches due to debt or other financial issues. Reports surfaced that farmers were so distraught over the probability of losing their family legacy farm that they were finding creative ways to collect their life insurance policies by avoiding the suicide exclusions of those policies. Imagine being so desperate or fearful of losing the family farm that you would allow yourself to overturn your tractor onto yourself or hit a bridge abutment in your pickup truck so your family could collect on your life insurance to pay the farm debt and carry on for just a few more years. Ag people who remember the 80s will verify this was happening all over the entire country. In 1987, Congress passed the Congressional Agriculture Credit Act to help save the farmers and ranchers. Congress recognized the size of the problem and ensured that certified mediation programs were authorized to assist the producers in the states who were having the struggles. As we head into the next Farm Bill, many long-term producers are voicing concerns that the current financial conditions in America greatly resemble those of the farm crisis of the 80s. Following enactment of the 87 Act, AMPs began to form in ag states and were funded at 70% grant funds, which were to be matched with local 30% investment. Mediation efforts were to be provided free to the parties participating in the programs, and they still are free today. Originally, the AMPs were authorized to deal with FSA programs, but Congress and USDA have recognized the need to expand the list over the last 35 years for eligible topics that currently face farmers and ranchers around the country. Mediations are now authorized for disputes over all ag loans, wetlands determinations, conservation compliance, rural water loan programs, national forest system grazing, pesticide disputes, farm credit cases, and USDA direct and guaranteed loans. In 2006, rural housing loans, rural business loans, and crop insurance disputes were added. And in the most recent 2018 Farm Bill, it added land and equipment lease issues, family farm transitions, farmer-neighbor disputes, credit counseling, and issues identified by the state agriculture secretaries as appropriate to serve their states. Each of the 43 AMPs operates differently based on the needs of particular states, that particular state's producers. The types of mediations needed in New Jersey or Georgia may not be the same as those in Oklahoma or California, since they are totally different types of farms. All AMPs operate under the 7 CFR section 785.1 through 13, and each AMP must recertify annually. Our camp web URL is www.agriculturemediation.org, and I encourage you to learn about all of our programs. They are all listed there, and including the contact information for each of the state programs. The 43 AMP directors applaud Congress and USDA for evolving and expanding the eligible cases that we can mediate due to the changing times and needs of the ag communities. We exist to stand ready to help the folks that need us most when we are most needed. Most of us predict that the case numbers are about to rise as loan processing resumes. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kay Prather, the Kansas director, to tell you more about mediation.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, I'm Kay Prather with the Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services through Kansas State University Research and Extension. Thank you for taking time to view our video about ag mediation programs. I have the privilege and opportunity to share what mediation is. Mediation is the process that brings together parties to a conflict with a trained mediator to facilitate problem solving. Mediation is not court litigation. It is not arbitration. The mediator is not present to make decisions or to make the decisions for the parties. The mediator is present to help the process move through topics and work towards solutions. Because mediation often occurs after the parties to the conflict have lost the ability to effectively communicate with each other, mediation is often a tool for communication to happen. Mediation is confidential and it is always voluntary by nature. Even though there are some programs that are considered mandatory, the agreements made by the parties are always voluntary. Mediation is a more efficient process than litigation or arbitration. Therefore, mediation saves money for farmers, ranchers, and agricultural communities, including agribusinesses, ag lenders, the USDA, and others. Mediation results are the combined efforts of the parties involved. In mediation, the parties have the flexibility to be creative in their solutions. They can reach agreements that fit their specific circumstances, needs, and values. Mediation can save a family farm from sale by allowing heirs to create a transition plan to keep the ag land in production moving forward. Mediation can be used to work out conflicts between farm neighbors, ag creditors and borrowers, USDA agencies and producers, and family farm members. Ag mediation programs often have services in addition to the mediation itself to assist parties in preparing for mediation. Some of the services we offer in Kansas include financial analysis and counseling services, legal information and education, and family farm transition services. For America's farmers and ranchers, whether large or small, ag mediation programs offer real pathways to resolve conflict and keep farmers and ranchers working to feed the world. Thank you again for your time today.
Well, thank you, Kay. Now we're going to hear from ag mediators from across the country about the different ways the program operate. And for example, Kay talked about how mediation is voluntary, but she alluded to the fact that there are a small handful of programs that have mandatory mediation. And so now Mary Nell Preisler from the Minnesota program is going to talk about their farmer lender mediation program. Mary Nell?
Thank you, Matt. Mary Nell Preisler, the Executive Director for Farmer Lender Mediation with the University of Minnesota Extension. While most agricultural mediation programs are voluntary, meaning that all parties must agree to participate, in a few states, lenders and creditors must participate in mediation. In answer to the 1980s farm crisis in agriculture in Minnesota, the state legislators established a mandatory mediation program between agricultural producers and lenders. This has been extended until 2027. Starting in 1986, a creditor with a secured debt of more than $15,000 against an agricultural property must offer farmer lender mediation before proceeding with foreclosure, repossession, cancellation of a contract, or collection of a judgment. This program is critical because otherwise these cases are headed to court, which means higher transaction costs. A farmer in debt has the opportunity to renegotiate, restructure, or resolve farm debt through farmer lender mediation. The use of the term mandatory does not mean that the farmer must use mediation. It means that no creditor can start proceedings to collect against debt against property until the offer of mediation has been extended, and if the farmer so chooses, completed the process. The process has been extremely successful for both farmers and lenders. The workout rate with a plan for a future is within the 85% range. Generally, the issue is the farmer's cash flow challenges, and that is best handled through constructive conversation and planning and mediation. Mediation enables the parties to tailor agreements based on the farmer's cash flow and ability to pay. Mediation repairs and builds relationships because the agricultural community needs to work together to be successful. The agricultural mediation program has been helping farmers, lenders, and other members of the agricultural community for over 37 years. The need for this program now is as great as ever. Thank you for your support for the legislative program.
Thank you, Mary Nell. And now we're going to hear from LaTanya Brown from the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. LaTanya?
Hello, my name is LaTanya Brown, and I'm the Director of the Agriculture Mediation Program with the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. I cover the states of Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, and the Virgin Islands. Prior to the certified mediation programs, many farmers in these states did not use mediation as an option because of the cost incurred. So nearly every year, a portion of the southeastern region is affected by disaster, be it a hurricane, tropical storm, tornado, etc., which requires some farmers to apply for disaster assistance programs. The mediation program is essential during these times because it allows the farmers who are denied assistance and opportunity to come to an agreement with USDA to possibly receive some form of assistance during these critical times. During the pandemic, we also saw how farmers were essential responders. We depended on farmers to provide food boxes to the communities directly since there was a food shortage in the grocery stores. Although we cover most of the southeastern region, I would like to give you a few statistics just on Georgia. So in 2020, according to the Georgia farming statistics, 1 in 7 Georgians worked in ag. There were 43,439 farms encompassing 9,953,730 acres of land, according to the census. Georgia ag producers sold more than $9.57 billion worth of ag products. On an average, Georgia contributes $72.5 billion annually to the state's economy through agriculture. Over the past year, the Georgia Ag Program has assisted farmers with land issues valuing over $8 million through agricultural mediations with families dealing with heirs property issues, consultations, and financial and legal referrals. Again, this is just one state. These numbers increase significantly when you include the other states. Generally, the USDA representative in mediation does not have the authority to overturn a regulatory decision, which makes people ask, what is the purpose of mediation if they cannot overturn a decision? Well, the benefit of the mediation is that it allows the participants to carefully review and discuss the issues that cause the denial. In my experience, it is usually a misunderstanding of documents required to be submitted for the approval. And during the mediation, the representative generally will allow the farmer to submit any additional documentation and agree to take these documents back to the committee and recommend that they review the case again. This has resulted in agreements that would not have been made had it not been for mediation services. In closing, I like to say this program has proven to be very beneficial to farmers and also USDA because we have less foreclosures and appeal requests and litigation. It is also beneficial to the country as a whole, since again, farmers are essential responders. Therefore, we respectfully request that you continue to support our farmers as these essential responders by continuing the funding for this program in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, LaTanya. Now we're going to hear from Kylie Fleming from the Iowa Ag Mediation Program about how their program has worked on a variety of complicated financial issues, from dealing with small farms up to multi-million dollars. Kylie?
Thanks, Matt. As he had indicated, my name is Kylie Fleming, and I am the Executive Director of Iowa Mediation Service. And we were, in fact, the first agricultural-based mediation program in the nation. And we started that in 1985 to pay the way for other federal programming to follow suit, to provide the necessary support and a national framework. During the course of that almost 40-year period, we have seen that that need still continues. So I thought I would paint a picture about Iowa agriculture. Currently, there are over 86,000 farms in Iowa, and of those, greater than 90% are family-owned. Agriculture in Iowa produces more than 400,000 jobs across the 99 counties. We're #1 in the nation in hogs, corn, eggs, and soybean, along with being a top 5 in many other categories. So when we sit at the recent hog crisis, it creates the need to pause and reflect. So in Iowa, when we talk about the hog crisis, we're indicating things like the rising input costs associated with feed and fuel, legislative changes that impact operations, and then the continued issues surrounding livestock health. Iowa is unique in that 20% of the nation's total hog market share comes from our state, and 80% of Iowa hogs come from a large operation. So I want you to take a moment and picture yourself sitting at a mediation table surrounding a hog mediation case. You're the mediator, and there are 10 people sitting with you. 2 are creditors, 6 are borrowers, and there's $39 million of debt tied to 22 loans, impacting greater than 200,000 hogs. So you ask for their input. And here are the contentious options that are presented. Euthanize the livestock. Perhaps stop feeding the livestock. Don't continue the loan. Or do a fast clearance sale. Perhaps you make the decision to go to bankruptcy. As you can hear, none of those options are beneficial for the greater good of the parties at the table. So after a day of sitting with these parties and working diligently with them, the mediator was able to help them find a cooperative agreement that looked like this: an amenable liquidation, a receivership was established, employment payments were made, and in fact, agreements were made to continue paying every employee. The care and feeding and of the livestock was maintained, and the producer was able to keep their personal property. So those are some of the quantifiable outcomes, but let's also talk about the non-quantifiable ones. The community at large, including the families and those who benefit at the table and just communities at large. And then the resource preservation. And in my opinion, the greatest resource that we help preserve is the emotional well-being of everybody. And the clarification of communication, options, and goals helps every party know how to put their next foot forward after they leave a session. So while this case was $39 million, as Matt had alluded to, we will do a large scope of cases. There is no case that is too small or too big. We will sit at the table on terms surrounding $20,000, and then those that are millions of dollars, because our mediators will meet people where they're at to help them come up with beneficial outcomes, regardless of the size. So to that end, we thank you for the support that helps create those bridges to keep agriculture, not just in Iowa, but nationally moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie. And now we're going to hear from Mary Campbell about family farm transitions in California. Mary?
Thank you, Matt. As Mike Maryberry mentioned in the beginning, 2018 was a big year for our program, where we were authorized to do a number of things, including succession planning. Now, this was also the same year that Farmers National Company estimated that 70% of ag land in the United States was going to change hands over the next 20 years. That's over 2/3 of all ag land, farms and ranches in America changing hands. Now, why is this? That's such a big deal? Well, of the approximately 2 million farms and ranches in the United States, 97% are family owned. And the current data shows that only 30% survive to the second generation and only 12% survive to the third. Why are those numbers so dire? One reason is families don't have a plan for succession. I mean, you're just trying to get through the next week, much less look at 5 to 10 years down the road. And plus, it's hard to have conversations around death or retirement or even slowing down. So that's where we come in. We are really good at helping people talk to each other. We can help conversations between spouses, between parents and children, cousins. We've had cases where we had like 13 cousins discussing a ranch succession plan. And so we can help them have those very important but difficult conversations over time, right? Succession planning can take 1 to 2 years with many, many meetings. In California, both myself and my Northern California colleague are certified farm succession coordinators through the International Farm Transition Network, as are many of our AMP mediators across the country. So that's in addition, of course, to being an experienced ag mediator. We're working with families in 2 ways in California. Individually, of course, families can call us. We can work with the family as a whole or any subset of the family. And then we're also partnering with another nonprofit, California Farm Link, who has developed a 12-month curriculum to take a group of families through the succession planning process. So we come in to support how to listen to each other, how to have a family meeting, how to do an agenda, how to have those conversations so you can go to a professional and then have an effective plan. We're hoping what we're doing here and across the country is making a difference on those statistics, because again, we're still in that 20-year timeline, and this is a critical time for farm and ranches in the United States. So thank you so much for your support of this program.
Well, thank you, Mary. So now you've heard a little bit about background information about the history of the program, about mediation, about how some of the programs operate, and the different kind of cases that we work on. The Coalition of Ag Mediation Programs, which are all 43 state programs across the country, respectfully request that this program be reauthorized in the 2023 Farm Bill. Every 5 years, the program needs to be reauthorized, and we hope you recognize that this program brings a lot of value and the need for it is as critical now as it's ever been. The financial caps were set in 1987 that each program can only get $500,000 per year, and it was a set cap of $7.5 million for all the programs across the country. We respectfully request that the caps be raised so that, for example, if you think about 1987, $500,000 in 2023 money would be close to $1.35 million. We are only asking that the caps be raised from $500,000 to $700,000. We believe that will be adequate for the programs to work given the inflation. And secondly, we request that the cap for the entire program be raised from $7.5 million to $10 million. We think that will be very helpful because, as Mike alluded, we anticipate our case numbers will grow. And as Mary talked about, in addition, some of these cases, like the family farm transition cases we work on, are very complex. They're very different than a simple creditor case because they may go on for dozens of meetings over the course of a year or two. So those are more expensive to work on, but very critical to work on. So with that, we thank you all for your for watching this video, and we encourage you to go to the Coalition of Ag Mediation Program website if you have any questions, and you can follow up with the state programs. Thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you. Bye-bye.